Lord, as I prepare to do this YouTube video, I ask that you get me out of the way. I ask that the words that come out of my mouth reach the people that you want it to reach. Father, I pray that you open their hearts. I pray that you open their minds and that you allow them to receive whatever it is that you want them to receive. Father, I pray that after they watch this video that they take action and that everything that I share in this video improves their finances and takes their finances to the next level. Lord, do what only you can do. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Period. Hey, homegirl. I am Kiani, the responsible homegirl, and I am so excited that you are back here on my YouTube channel. Today, we are talking about paying off high interest credit card debt. Now, if you haven't been watching any of my old videos, I want to say in previous videos, I've said that I've been studying the book of Proverbs. And this video was inspired by Proverbs 22:7, and it says, just as the rich rule over the poor, so is the borrower, the servant to the lender. So when I read this, I was like, I need to do a video on this, because paying off debt is deeper than just, I want to be debt free. Let's celebrate. Let's have a great time. I don't owe nobody nothing. But no, it's literally biblical. If you owe somebody some money, you are their servant, plain as day. So I want to talk to you today about paying off high interest debt, specifically credit card debt, because I believe credit card debt is one of those things that we just kind of carry on and we get away with paying the minimum balance on it. And we don't really have strategy around paying off this credit card debt. So today I want to take you through chapter 3. I want to say it's chapter 3 in this book. It might be another chapter. Let's see. No, it's actually chapter 4. It's chapter 4 in this book, and it is called Get Good with the Money. Y'all know this is one of my favorite personal finance books. I love the Budgetnista, Tiffany Alicia. She is literally my mentor in my head. She is goals, my role model. So when I tell you this book is filled with gems and great information, literally 10 out of 10. So go pick it up. I'll have the book link in the description box below. But I want to take you through just a few things that stood out to me that I believe will help you get a strategy for paying off your credit card debt. So let's get into it. Before we get into the strategy, I want to say, give yourself grace. This is not the time to be super hard on yourself and just, this bee got to go. I don't know if that's even a bee. I don't do animals and insects. Okay. I want you to not be so hard on yourself and all down in the dumps. No, your energy is so important. So I know this might sound crazy, but be grateful that you have access to the money that you have access to. There are so many people who are probably trying to get a credit card and they can't get a credit card, or things have happened in the past and it has negatively impacted them where they can't have access to the money. So I want to challenge you to really transform your mindset around the debt. Yes, you have the debt. Yes, it needs to be paid off, but I don't want you to approach this from a place of burden. What am I even trying to say? I don't want you to place it. I don't want you to attack it from a place of anger and frustration. No, get excited about you actually putting a plan in place, and know that you didn't always know what you know about finances right now. Because we aren't taught about money at school or at home, we make dumb mistakes. We do dumb things, and then we have to learn about it on the other side. So I just share that to say, give yourself grace, but also stay on your neck as you are putting together this plan. Now, in chapter 4 of this book, is called Digging Out of Debt. The Budgetnista suggests that you do 4 things to really put a plan in place. So the first thing is identify your debt. 2, restructure your debt. 3, choose a pay down plan, which is where we're going to spend majority of our time. And then 4, automate the pay down plan. All right, point number 1, identify your debt. This is where you need to go ahead and pull out that sheet of paper, or if you are a notes girly, put it in your notes. 1, you need to name your debt. What debt do you have? And since we're talking about credit cards, name the credit card. So whether that's Discover or Capital One or Navy Federal or whatever bank you have that credit card or multiple credit cards with, go ahead and label that. Put the amount that you owe. So what is the balance on that credit card debt? So whether that's $500, $2,000, $5,000, whatever it is, make sure you actually put the debt there. When the bill is due, please put that when the bill is due. And then the most important, what is the interest rate? Now, if you can't find the interest rate on your app, go back and look at some of your statements. So you might can find your statements in your app, or I know some financial institutions, they send a statement to your email every single month. So find your statement so you can find out what your interest rate is. And in this book, she talks about the difference between APR and interest. And I'm going to read it to y'all because when I read this, I was very surprised. I was like, oh, this is actually interesting. So the difference between the interest rate and an APR. So according to the Consumer Financial Bureau, the APR is a broader measure of the cost of borrowing money than the interest rate. So it's more broad. Think of your APR as like your umbrella, and then your interest rate is underneath that umbrella. So the interest rate is the cost you pay each year to borrow the money, expressed as a percentage rate. So I always tell people, especially when I'm teaching, interest is the price you pay for borrowing money. So if I go in the store and I see a bottle of water that I want, underneath that bottle of water will be the cost, the price tag. Your interest rate is your price tag. It is the cost that you have to pay for borrowing the money. So your interest rate does not reflect fees or any other charges you have to pay for borrowing money. So when you think about APR, your APR includes fees, other charges, all of that good stuff expressed as an interest rate, but your interest rate is the actual cost for you borrowing that money. So that was a very unique fact that I learned just from reading this book, that the APR and the interest rate is not necessarily the same thing. So super duper interesting. Next, she says, it is important to remember that when you are borrowing money, you are taking out money from your future self and future earnings and spending it today. So anytime you are saying, okay, let me borrow this money and I'm gonna pay it back later, you are taking away from your future savings. You are taking away from your future investments. And it goes back to that scripture where it says the borrower is the servant to the lender, because you are always going to be working to pay that money back, period. So I just really want you to think more long-term and think more just like strategic when it comes to swiping that credit card, because we're talking about credit cards, and even taking out debt. Like, yeah, it's great to have access to that money, but you also have to know when I pay this money back, it is taking away from what my future self could be doing with these funds. And I was even saying, not just even saving and investing, traveling, doing the things that you love to do, putting your money in places that serve you well and benefit you well, besides just, okay, I want this right now, knowing I can't afford it right now, so I'm gonna swipe my credit card and, oh, I'll just pay it back later. That money could be literally used for something else. So just keep that in mind as you are swiping that credit card. So continuing on, she says an interest rate is used to calculate the daily amount you will owe a balance if you carried it for 365 days. For example, if you owed $2,000 on a credit card and your interest rate was 20%, that interest rate will be calculated and compounded daily. Did you know that? So sometimes we look at the APR and we're like, oh, this is like my annual, meaning yearly percentage rate. But actually, baby, that interest rate is being calculated every single day. So every single time you have or you leave a balance on that credit card, you are getting charged interest. Next, that means each day, whatever money you haven't paid off yet racks up interest charges. So you not only owe interest on your principal payment, which is the original money that you borrowed, but you have to pay interest on the interest too. So I always say, I refer to that song, Racks on Racks on Racks. That's exactly what your interest is doing. Your interest is racking up on top of each other. So you got your principal, you got your interest, and now compounded interest is interest stacking up on top of the interest. I pray that makes sense. But it's not just like, oh, this interest is just on this principal balance. No, it continues to increase the more time you leave in between you actually paying off the full amount. So going further down, she actually has like this example inside of the book where she shows you how these credit card companies are calculating the numbers. Like I said, I would highly suggest you get the book so you can see it yourself. But they are taking that interest rate, dividing it by 365, and then multiplying it by your balance every single day, so that when it comes to your statement date, then they have a total look at, okay, this is going to be her minimum payment. This is how much we are going to charge her in interest for this month alone. So it's not a yearly thing. It is a daily thing. Last but not least, the last thing that I want to share in this section is compound interest is something that you can take major advantage of as an investor. So meaning it helps you out when you are investing money. However, as a borrower, it is not your friend. So compound interest is literally your worst enemy when it comes to borrowing money. Now, when you are investing money, you want the compound interest. That's why it's important that we prepare for retirement in our 20s, in our 30s. Like, start doing that stuff right now so we're not waiting till we turn 65 and we're like, dang, like the time has left me. The compound interest helps you on that side. But when it comes to borrowing money and being in debt, the compound interest hurts you more than a little bit because you end up owing way more money than you ever borrowed. So I just want you to keep that in mind as well when it comes to borrowing money and a plan to pay off whatever amount you borrow. Okay, moving right along to restructuring your debt. So in this section, she talks about 3 different ways that you can restructure your debt to make it easier for you to pay it off and get rid of the high interest, because I'm pretty sure you know, if you have a credit card, that the interest rate on credit cards are super high. The average interest rate on a credit card is anywhere between 20 to 30%. So if we can knock out that higher interest rate, we're going to save way more money in the long run because it's not being calculated by such a high interest rate versus something that's like a car loan. Your interest rate might be 5% or lower. Some people have higher interest rates than that, or even student loans, the interest rate might be 1% or 2%. Like, you see, when you are borrowing money, you want your interest rate to be as low as possible, versus when you are saving and investing, you want your interest rate to be as high as possible. But in this case, like I said, she gives you 3 different ways that you can restructure your debt. The first one she says is negotiating a lower interest rate. So that's you picking up the phone, calling that credit card company and seeing what it is that they can do to lower your interest rate. And how you talk to them is so important. If you've been a client or a customer for years, use that as leverage. The last thing they want to do is lose you. And granted, they can't really lose. They can lose you because you can definitely transfer that money to another credit card company, but you don't want to necessarily close any credit accounts because that's going to negatively impact your credit score. But you know, you can talk that talk to get what you want. So the first one is negotiating a lower interest rate. The second one is doing a balance transfer. So that is where you are taking money from one credit card and you are transferring the balance to another credit card that has a lower interest rate. The great thing about a balance transfer is oftentimes the interest rate is going to be 0% or probably even 1%, like very low, because there are cards that do promotions. So they want to earn your business. And for them earning your business, they're like, okay, well, you can do a balance transfer and the interest rate will be 0% for 12 months, or it'll be 1% for 3 months, or 1% for 6 months or 9 months. Like, every promotion is different, but they are giving you time where you can transfer that balance and not have to worry about earning interest on the money that you owe. And that basically, it gives you more breathing room because you don't have to focus on getting like just more money stacked up on top of that balance. You can really focus on paying off this debt. I think that that's the vicious thing about credit card debt is it never stops. And the reason why it never stops is because it's like, no matter how much I pay on it, the next month is coming around. And when the next month comes around, it's going to be additional interest. So when you do that balance transfer, you are getting rid of that extra headache. You are getting rid of that additional interest. So I would highly recommend doing a balance transfer, but make sure you actually read the fine print, read what it is that they're offering you, know the terms, know the conditions, so that you're not putting yourself in another sticky situation. The last thing that she recommends is getting a personal loan, and you can get a personal loan from your bank, from a credit union. You do have to have great credit, and that's for, and I'm not gonna say great credit, but you do have to be approved, and that's for a balance transfer as well. So when you are restructuring your debt, remember the goal is to get a lower interest rate so you can focus on paying off the debt in a timely manner. Now, all of this is good and dandy, but you cannot do something new and carry on your same old bad habits. Because if you carry your same old bad habits, all you're going to have is your old credit card that's clear now that you did a balance transfer. Let's say you did the balance transfer, but you have no balance on this credit card anymore. And now you done transferred the balance to another credit card and you're doing pretty well with paying that off, but all of a sudden you start swiping that old credit card again. And now here you are with 2 credit cards that both have balances on them. So you actually want to make sure you are being disciplined, that you are getting things out of sight, out of mind. And as much as you are restructuring debt and doing things different, that you carry that discipline, you carry that self-control over with you so that you're not in a bad financial spot or you're digging yourself in a deeper hole that you're going to have to eventually get yourself out of. All right, so we talked about identifying your debt. We talked about restructuring your debt. Now I want to talk about choosing a pay down plan. Now there are 2 major ways that you can pay off your debt. You have the Snowball method and you have the Avalanche method. Now they are pretty similar, but I want to say the one that you choose, it really depends on your personality. And I'm going to read them directly from the book so it can be verbatim and you can understand just as clear as day. Now the Snowball method prioritizes paying off your debts from smallest to largest. So it's kind of described as the way like a snowball would gain momentum and continue to grow as if it was like rolling down a hill. So the biggest benefit of a snowball method is it sets you up for success early. So no matter what the interest rate is on your debts, you're going to start off with the smallest debt first and then increase your way up to the largest debt. So if you have a credit card that you owe $200 on, you will start there, then you will go to the $1,000 one, then you will go to like the $3,500 one. So you will start off with the smallest balance, no matter what the interest rate is, and then continue to go up and up and up. The snowball method, it gives you a sense of confidence to keep going, and it really gives you that boost to say like, wow, I can do this, because you're knocking it out early. Like you're just clearing some of that debt off in the early phases, versus the avalanche is probably going to take you a little bit more time and effort, and we're going to get deeper into that later. So how you set up the snowball method, she gives you 7 different steps that you can go through. Number 1, list all your debts in order from smallest current balance to the largest current balance. Number 2, figure out how much money you can squeeze in from your budget to repay the debt. So in one of my previous videos, I talked about how you need to budget every single time you get paid. You want to list your income, you want to list your expenses for this pay period. What am I saving, spending, investing, and giving? Once you have your numbers written down on paper, you can kind of see what extra money do I have that I can throw at this debt, this pay period. So that is going to help you actually knock out that debt instead of just paying off the minimum, or instead of just paying the minimum balance and going on your merry way. Okay. Number 3, except for the smallest debt on your list, make the minimum payment on all your debts. So on all your other high debts, you're going to make the minimum payment, but on the one that you are working on, the smallest one that you are focusing on at the time, you're going to pay more than a minimum payment. Number 4, you want to automate all of your minimum payments so that we are not late and we're not getting no late fees. Number 5, put the savings you identified and set aside for the debt repayment, as well as the minimum payment required to the first debt. So the lowest balance, pay this combined amount to the debt monthly. Pay this combined amount to this debt monthly until it is paid off. Automate this payment to ensure that this happens. So essentially what she is saying here, whatever number you have said I can throw extra at this money, you're going to pay the minimum balance and you're going to pay the extra money and you're going to automate it. Now I know automating puts some of us in a little tight spot, but I'm telling you, it is the way that you are going to succeed, because the less you got to worry about, the more likely it is that it's actually going to get done. Number 6, after the first debt is paid off, apply all the money you were putting to your first debt to your second debt. So say for instance, you were paying $300 a month on this first debt so that you could pay it off. When you finally get that debt paid off, take that same money that you was applying to that first debt and put it to the second debt. This means the second debt will now get 3 payments in one. The first debt's minimum, its minimum, and the extra money from your budget that you was paying on that first debt that you have. Number 7, once you pay off the second debt, roll over all those payments into the third lowest debt on your list. So this is assuming that this person has like multiple credit cards, multiple things going on. But if you only have one credit card, or maybe like you have 2 credit cards, you want to start off and you want to do the snowball method, start off with this one with the smallest balance first, and then pay that off, and then go to your second credit card. So now let's get into the avalanche method. So the avalanche method would have you pay off the debt with the highest interest rate first, regardless of the balance. So this is the one that I love the most and that I honestly recommend. And the reason why is because I'm more of a long-term girly. Like, I believe in saving money in the long run. And choosing the Avalanche method, it is going to save you more money in the long run because you're attacking the credit card with the highest interest rate first. If you have a low balance on a credit card with a high interest rate, you're not going to owe that much money back. Why? Because the balance is low. Versus if you have a high balance and a high interest rate, the cycle is going to be never ending. So this is personally my favorite, but like I said, and like she said in the book, you have to choose one that is best for your personality and something that's going to actually help you be sustainable. The Avalanche method will have you pay off the debt with a high interest rate first, regardless of the balance. The reason why you do this is that you will be paying off the more expensive debt first. This is the most logical approach, but that doesn't make it necessarily the best approach. Again, it depends on your personality and what's going to help you keep going throughout this entire process. To apply the Avalanche method, you will use the same 7 steps that we outlined for the Snowball method, except you prioritize paying off the high interest debt first instead of the smallest balance first. So Snowball is the smallest balance first, Avalanche, highest interest rate first. So Snowball, you can kind of remember that because both of them start off with an S. So Snowball, smallest balance, Avalanche, highest interest rate. So the best strategy for you depends a little on your personality. Do you prefer a small, quick win to give you a boost or more motivation? Or do you prefer the long game, one that requires an investment of effort over time, but will lead to a bigger win? So you have to be self-aware to know, like, okay, I'm gonna go to Snowball, I'm gonna do Avalanche, or you can probably even do a mix of both and go in between until your credit card debts are paid off. Last but not least, she talks about automating the plan. So we started off with talking about identifying the debt, restructuring the debt, choosing a payoff plan, and then last but not least is automation. So once you have your plan in place, you want to automate your payments because this will leave you with less work and tallying to do each month. Again, the less work you have to do, the less you have to think about, the more likely this stuff will actually get done. And it won't just be a plan on paper. No, you will actually be executing and knocking out those financial goals. She said it will also allow you to put your energy toward learning how to grow wealth. Now, this is super key because she closes this entire section with saying, remember, debt-free does not equal wealth. On the path to financial wholeness, you've got some saving and investing to do. So yes, it's great to be debt-free, but at the same time, we want to be debt-free, but also be building wealth, saving, investing. And I'm gonna just put an emphasis on the saving because if you don't save money consistently and you find yourself in a tight financial spot, you will always end up back in debt. Why? Because you will need something to kind of lean on. Most people, they use their credit cards as emergency funds. And I just think that that is the biggest mistake. That's the biggest mistake to make when you can just save consistently and you lean on that emergency fund when you need it most instead of swiping that credit card and then now you have to pay back the money that you borrowed plus interest. So just remember that while you are paying off this debt and you are figuring out a strategy that works best for you, keep your future self in mind and keep that in mind too for the next time you feel tempted to swipe that credit card, okay? So today I really wanted to do this video because I believe that it is so important that we not just be okay with, I don't want to say settling because I don't think that we all just settle in credit card debt. I feel like credit card debt kind of creeps up, slow down. I think that the credit card debt creeps up on us and then we're in this cycle that is kind of hard for you to get out. But if you have a plan to strategically get out of debt, you can become debt free. That extra $300 that you're putting towards credit card debt, one day that can be $300 in a savings account. Additionally, one day that can be $300 being invested somewhere. One day that can be $300 towards a trip that you want to take. So just keep in mind that anytime you are borrowing money today and you have to pay it back later, you are taking money away from your future self. Don't forget about Proverbs 22:7 that says, just as the rich rule over the poor, so the borrower is the servant to the lender. And baby, I don't want to serve nobody but the Lord and the people that I was called to serve. not these financial institutions, not these banks, not these credit card companies that keeps us in cycles of debt, cycles of poverty, when there is a way to get out. So I hope this video was helpful for you. I hope that you actually take the time to put a plan in place and pay off that high interest, that high behind credit card debt. Thank y'all so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Don't forget to like, comment any questions that you have, subscribe to the channel, and if this was helpful, share it with a friend. Share it with one of your homegirls. All right, see y'all in the next video. Bye.